Hey, you guys, what's happening? How are you doing? How many, as we're waiting on other people to join us, how many of you had some kind of marriage event or date night for Valentine's Day to celebrate Valentine's Day? Just pop on there and let us know. You can contribute right there. How many of you did something for Valentine's Day? Give us a thumbs up. Of those of you who didn't do something, why? Just kidding. Yeah, so did you have a good Valentine's Day with your spouse is a good question, because a lot of times when we have a great Valentine's Day for everybody else at our church, with our spouse, maybe not so much. Yeah, kind of like the time that we had a marriage event on my anniversary that made me forget my anniversary. So don't hate me. Don't be a hater. It was hurtful. My wife's like, oh, I didn't think about it either. So I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Well, we are so glad that you guys are here. We know you're very, very busy. We know that it is in the middle of the day, and we know our early afternoon for a lot of you. And thanks for joining us. We're excited about this one. I think this is important. We're going to talk about something we've just created, but also what we want to do is we want to dive in a little bit deeper about, how do you help couples to be more proactive in their marriage. So right now I'm going to go to a little presentation because I'm really fancy like that. Are you guys ready for this? I'm going to go to, that's screen share. This is chat. This is videos. Watch this trick. All right, you guys ready? All right, here we go. So the question is, how do we help couples be proactive in their marriage? How do we do that? Because here's what we know is couples can often wait too long to work on their marriage and to get help. And I saw this study, and it's been out forever, but it rocks me to my core every time I see it. It says couples wait an average of 6 years of being unhappy before getting help. You think about 6 years worth of pent-up resentment and frustration and fighting and arguing. And, if they're seeking help at that point, it's really tough. And so when they reach out to the church, gosh, a lot of times they're in a mess. In fact, I told my wife, I came home one day, I was director of married life at a church, and I talked to couples in crisis, and I told Nancy, I said, I just feel like I'm really bad at it. I feel like must be really bad at helping couples in crisis, because when they come to me and say they're going to get a divorce unless we do some things, they always end up getting a divorce. And then it hit me one day, they weren't really looking to reconcile. They weren't looking for reconciliation. They were looking for justification, especially if they had kids, because they wanted to be able to say, hey, we tried everything. We even talked to the marriage guy at church, and we didn't help. So I feel like we need to reach out to couples before they reach out to us. And a lot of people, that's the church's motto is, we're going to address marriages when marriages address us. And a lot of times it's just simply too late. And people go, it's never too late for God. No, it's never too late for God. But for a lot of times it's too late for a spouse. When you've got a couple where one's still fighting, the other one's apathetic. It's really difficult. So the reason we want to help couples be proactive is, they don't do that on their own. In fact, they wait 6 years, a lot of them, to get to help. The other thing is, and this is going to be we know this, couples are busy. Couples are going 1,000,000 miles an hour. We're busier than ever. And I saw this the other day. Actually, this study's been out for years, and it blows me away as well. Dr. Greg Smoller reports that married couples spend just 4 minutes a day in meaningful conversations. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. So the pace of life, the busyness of life from work, the expectations of what kids should be doing and how many things they should be involved in, it's just gone crazy. And you think about our culture, when you think about Western culture in the light of Scripture, in the light of how God wants us to do marriage, and it's an issue that we're just going to wrestle with as a church. The other thing is couples camp out on their devices. This thing. We're the first generation that's going to have to figure out what it's like when we have access to the world right in front of us. And I saw this, and it blew me away. Nielsen Market Research Group says that U.S. adults spend an average of 3 hours and 48 minutes a day on computers, tablets, and smartphones. Think about this for a minute. For almost 4 hours of the day, we're on this. And as a married couple, we've got 4 minutes. So it's 4 minutes versus 4 hours. That's an issue. And you're going, why aren't couples being proactive? Because they're constantly doing this. They're constantly busy, and they don't seek help, because what does that even look like? What does it look like to get help? A lot of people, the only thing they can think of is, we need to go see a counselor. And a lot of guys especially are like, I'm not seeing a counselor. We've had people to say, marriage counseling costs too much, which I want to say it's cheaper than 2 houses, but they've got this logic of why they're not going to seek help, or they put it off. So you can see this tension that we feel as a church when couples, they're not being proactive, right? I found this image where there was a photographer, just to illustrate, how we're so addicted to phones. He did some images where he photoshopped out phones, and you see how silly that looks, and you see how disconnected they are. But that's a real image when you see that, and you go, couples are doing this. And I don't know if when I say real image, I don't know if he slipped into their bedroom, took a picture. I don't think that's the case. But you know what I mean? Like, you can see couples doing this back to back, disconnected. And here's the thing. Here's why this is such a big deal, is healthy couples have what John Gottman calls love maps. And people that are so busy, they're talking 4 minutes a day, that are on their devices 4 hours a day, they start to not have these love maps. And you go, what in the world's a love map? He defines it this way. Love maps are about knowing the big and little things about your spouse's life, which creates a strong foundation for your friendship and your intimacy. So the thing is with love maps, is people that know each other, and you can't love somebody you don't know. What speaks love early on may not speak love later. I know when we first got married, flowers, were a big deal. Like, she loved flowers. But then when we had preschoolers, she's like, don't buy me flowers, just wipe someone or somebody. That was her love language. Now her love language is time away, but I've got to keep knowing her. And couples stop knowing each other. They stop learning about each other. And what we need to wrestle with as a church is, how do we help them to continue to have love maps? How do we help them to continue to invest in getting to know each other? Or as Paul says in 1 Corinthians, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. That I shall know fully, even as I've been fully known. That we want to teach people, just like God loves us, he knows us, he fully knows us, he loves us despite of and because of what he knows, that we want couples to feel like, hey, we know each other and we love each other despite of and because of what we know. That's how we start to be proactive. So what do I mean by proactive? What are some of the things that we want couples to do? When we're looking at the pace of their life, when we look at the rhythm of their life, when we're looking at the fact that they're only talking 4 minutes a day, that they're on their devices, what do we want instead? What's the option? As a church, we need to shift this from a reactive approach to a reactive and proactive approach. We want them to know. We want to move, like, we've got to have a plan when couples are in crisis, right? We've got to have that figured out, but we've got to have both. We've got to move into this whole idea of being proactive. As a church, we need to help couples become proactive in their marriage. You see, if we're not proactive as a church when it comes to marriage, it's really hard to illustrate and give that point of view that you need to be proactive in your marriage. So I say, if a church is only addressing marriages when they have to react, then I think what that does is send the message to couples that the only time we need to think about our marriage is when it's broken. I mean, I've had so many people tell me when they're starting a marriage ministry at their church, what's difficult is people say, hey, if I do something, for my marriage at church, people are going to think something's wrong, right? And, again, just talk to a leader. They just started marriage ministry. They kicked it off with this really fun event. But she said one of their biggest hurdles were getting people to know, hey, this just isn't for couples that are falling apart. This is for couples who want to go from good to great, that want to be proactive. So again, what do we want them to know? How do we help them be proactive? What are the things that we want them to do when they are not, instead of being so crazy? We want to push toward this whole idea of being kind. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you. My friend, Dr. Jeff Frey, says it this way. He said, we've convinced a generation that a group of PhDs have all the answers to marriage, and somehow the average Joe and Sue has to extract those answers. And he says, we've just forgotten the basics, like being kind. So we get to come in and say, in a proactive sense, and say, hey, no matter where you are in your marriage, we got to be kind. You've got to be kind. It's these little simple things. You're kind to everybody else the rest of the day. Save some of that kindness for home. The other thing is we want them to be available. You know, the thing I love about the whole Martha and Mary story is you get to see a picture of Jesus in a home with people who love him and that he loved back, right? I mean, Jesus, the masses were following him. The religious leaders hated him. But this is a window where we get to see Jesus in the home with people he loved and people that loved him back. And he said the most important thing, the thing to be the most hungry for, the thing to have the appetite for, wasn't as much food as it was to be with each other. Most importantly, being with him. So when we've got people living on these, when we've got people that are absolutely addicted chemically and from a neurological standpoint to these phones, it's like, no, we've got to help people to be available, not only to God, but to each other. And finally, to be fun. Ecclesiastes 9, I love this verse. It says, enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life. That's inspiring, right? That God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days. In other words, we're going to get to the end of the life, and these couples are going to get to end their life, and they're going to realize a lot of the things they were stressed out about all the time, and all of this was a little bit meaningless. What wasn't meaningless was family. What wasn't meaningless was their marriage. And so we want to keep saying that to couples. We want to keep saying, up front, hey, we're only going to focus on your marriage, this church, when it's falling apart. We want to help you to keep you out of crisis in the first place. We want us to celebrate and have great marriages. And we're watching married people churches all over the country do that in a really powerful way. As the church, we need to shift from a reactive approach to reactive and proactive approach. And here's the thing with reactive approach. And here's why I think most people can't stay in just reactive mode. A reactive approach to marriage ministry is emotional and it's measurable, right? It's emotional. A couple comes in, their marriage is going to be torn apart. The church helps it. That's emotional. That's an emotional story that we want to be told. And those are great stories. And it's also measurable. They were going to get a divorce. Now they're not going to get a divorce. Oh, we saved another marriage. That is great. And that's why I think we can't there. But I think there's another way. Proactive approach is to marriage ministry is neither emotional or measurable, but it's far superior, right? Like we don't know what we've prevented. We don't know about the boy who was going to have to go back and forth to mom and dad's house, being shuffled back and forth, yet the church stepped in, helped mom and dad from ever getting to crisis in the first place, and he got to grow up with both mom and dad. We don't know about the situation where a couple was fighting all the time, or they're frustrated with each other all the time. And all of a sudden they learned how to talk to each other in a little bit different way. They learned how to connect in a little different way, and things started to soften. And we don't know the stories of couples that just could have fallen apart, but were stopped. And they started to laugh, and they started to enjoy each other. They started to be available. They started to be kind. They started to be present, and they started making choices that really, really mattered. And I believe that while we've got to have a strategy to react to the couples in crisis, just as importantly, and I would argue more importantly, we've got to have something to keep couples in crisis in the first place, right? So if you've been around married people for a while, you've probably seen us talk about these 3 circles. This is where we want to be proactive. And I'm not going to camp out a lot on that today. You can find this on our website, marriedpeoplechurches.org. You can hear more about that. There's videos on there, different things to explain that. But I'm going to hone in on just one of these in just a minute. But just in a way of review, for some of you, maybe this is for the first time, this is the way we want to help give couples less content more often. We want to help churches to help couples by giving them less content more often. And all of a sudden they have these little doses, these little moments, these little touch points in their marriage that they just give them a little bit of a relational win. So we believe instead of having a retreat where you dump 5 years worth of content on a couple all at once, that you say, wait a minute, they're talking 4 minutes a day. They're on their devices all the time. How do we start to help them get small wins. And we do that in 3 ways. The first one, it says larger group experiences. I've talked to some of my smaller church friend pastors, and they're saying, hey, Ted, we don't have a large group of married couples. That's why we call it larger, because we're just talking about groups that are bigger than small groups. It's kind of like an all skate, it's an all in where you get your couples together in an event, or maybe even on Sunday morning, where you just speak into them from a larger sense. You get to cast vision, you get to laugh, you get to let them know that struggle is normal, but hope's available. You let them know that marriage ministry is not just about when marriages are in crisis, but it's all the time. This is what really changes the tide. We have a Facebook leaders page, Married People Facebook Leaders, where you can see churches who have done these large events, and they've done such a great job. You guys that are watching, you've killed it. You're killing it. You've done such a good job taking the resources, making them your own, and having great nights. So that's a fun thing you could check out. The other piece that we talk about a lot here is small group experiences. And that is, we believe circles are better than rows. We believe Sunday school and small groups where you're with other couples that are for your marriage is just so important. And we're always going to be beating that drum that we've got to have people that are for a marriage. We've got to continue. And that's just where we unlock some content and we start speaking, enough content in that couples can have wins, right? The next one is for individual couples. We know that most of the time, you're not going to be with couples, right? 99.9% of the time, your investment into them is not going to be at church. It's going to be outside the church. And so we start talking about how do we help couples have a great relationship on their own. So one of the ways we do that to individual couples is through date nights. We create 4 date nights a year that you put in a gift bag or you put in some kind of fun Chinese takeout box. I mean, again, go on Facebook leaders page and you see all the different ways that church leaders have done that. But it's great when couples will go and do these dates on their own. It's really, really powerful. Now, the thing that I'm most excited about, and we launched this I think we launched it in January. I am sitting here with Robert Carnes, who developed this whole thing. It's just absolutely crushed it. We had all this incredible content kind of living on like a digital shelf. And we had thought church, you're the full distribution model. And then all this great content was sitting there. I mean, God, for whatever reason, has given us access to some of the best minds on marriages in the country, if not in the world, who said, yeah, we'd love to help couples through this. And so they've continued to do that. So we thought, what if we created a site where people are living 4 hours a day and we met them there? Instead of shaking our heads going, you got to put those phones down, which they do, and we want to keep talking about that. But what if instead of telling them how evil this is, and there's parts of it that are evil, but then there's some great parts in it. What if we met them here? What if we met them where they're living every single day with some great marriage content, which I believe some of the best in the country, to start speaking into their marriage, giving them just a little bit of content, less content more often? What would happen if we do that? So we created a thing called Married People Membership, and I'm going to do a little screen share right now, and I'm going to take you to the membership and kind of walk you through it just a little bit. So I'm going to go to screen share here. I'm going to go to here, and boom. So Robert, are we on there? Is it working?
It's on a little delay, so I'm watching it.
Okay, we're good.
Probably.
All right. So here we are. This is the website, Do Marriage Better, premium tools and resources for your marriage. And the thing that I love about this, the thing that Robert has done such an amazing job with, is just like Netflix, he's categorized things in a very, very clear way. Okay. So we know that people search for things in different ways, right? They'll search for things like if you're on Netflix and you're searching for movies, you'll search by comedies, or you'll search by your favorite author or your actor, however you want to do that. Robert's done a great job of this. So if you go, you know what, there's just certain types of resources that I like. Like I just like videos. No, I just want the ebooks. No, I don't. I just want to date, man. You guys keep talking. I want to keep dating. Here's some special tools. Here's some kind of graphics. I'm going to text my spouse. But it's just all that it's divided out by that. And we'll come and look at those in a minute. And it's divided by topics. This is where this is their felt need. Because what do people do? They're Googling. I want to know, we're fighting. What do I do? So everything is done by that way. Communication, conflict, faith, fun. Here's a new one on in-laws. And that's the other thing. We keep adding more and more resources to this thing each month. Here's something on money, here's sex, technology. Or maybe it's more of a seasonal thing. Hey, we're engaged, we're newlywed, we're expecting, we're parenting, we're empty nest. Like, what are the special things that are happening during that season? And the other thing we want to do is create community where we, as married couples, to go, here's some other people that want their marriage to be great, that want to be proactive in their marriage. And there you can find the blog. You find the podcast, which has just really, really taken off. It's done really, really well. We know a lot of you have been on there. Here's a Facebook group. There's a forum. And I'm going to come back to these last three, but I want to take you back a little bit to resources. So if you're a video person, I just want to watch videos, okay? We're going to click on that. Here it comes, videos. You go, I want to watch a message, Here, I want to see messages, somebody speaking. So you've got Andy Stanley talking about what happy couples know. Here's Lee and Martika Jenkins on marriage and money. Here's just some stories of couples sharing their powerful stories of how God has worked in their life through some of the principles that we keep talking. Here's just some fun stuff to get you laughing. Here's some fun stuff to get you thinking. They've got little points to it, but it's a lot of fun there. We also, under resources, ebooks. A lot of people love this. They want a quick little read that speaks to where they are. I want to talk about fighting fair. I want to talk about how do we date, a wife's guide to her husband, staying married and staying sane. I mean, just different gurus around the country doing that. This is probably one of my favorite things is the dates. We've created dates for years. And what we do is we give you instructions from when you start, when you're getting ready for your date till the end of your date. Right? Instructions all the way through, because a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, hey, go to, they'll give ideas. Go to the park and talk about the first time you got, you guys met. Well, that lasts about 5 minutes, right? So what we wanted to do, knowing that couples haven't dated a long time, knowing they're going to sit in the car and go, what do you want to do? I don't care. What do you want to do? We just filled in the blanks for that. So we keep adding new dates. For some of you, for some couples, they can't find a babysitter and they're just strapped for money or time or whatever. Here's some for at home. We've got partners here with Date Night, Date Box, and you get your first date night box for 50% off when people are part of that. Let's say you want to, this is one of my favorite things too. So you've got with topics, under topics, you say, you know what, I want to look, we're fighting a lot. Okay. People have different learning styles. So somebody said, I just want to read something. Somebody says, I want to listen to something. I want to watch something. I want to post something. I want to do something. So you say, I just like podcast. Well, here we go. Wine and serious fights called Make Us Fight About Serious Things. Somebody said, I want to read this. It's going to take them to an ebook. Somebody says, you get the point, but you go through and you can learn the way you want to learn. And then the other piece, this is the thing I'm excited about. A lot of times churches have said to us, they said, we don't have a line item for marriage ministry. So the thing, Robert is just crushed it on this thing. I came in one day, he goes, look at this. This is the thing I'm most excited about is you can come here and you can click on, as a church leader, you click on champions, right? So you'll go on champions page and you become a champion. And you put it, what it does, it creates a link back to this site. You put it on your site, and every time somebody signs up, it puts 25% of what they purchased, which is if it's $80 a year membership, it's going to put $20 back in the account that actually pays for your marriage ministry. And we're so stinking excited about that. I thought, boy, we have helped crack the code on that. But this is the membership that we are absolutely so excited about. And I'm going to take you back to presentation. Excuse me. I'm going to start it. And there we go. So what the membership does is the membership, as you can see, it's in the middle. It fills in those lines in between, right? That was the part I felt that we were missing. Like we would help churches to have these great events. We would help them to have great small groups. We'd give them some date nights, but go, what is the in between piece? And that's what this has become. And so super excited about that. Super excited watching what people are doing. I feel like we've got, it's just got a lot of momentum. It kind of hit me. I thought I was kind of, we were going to build this platform for just the married people resources. And what I've found is when I've met all these other gurus in the country, I'm like, hey, you're killing it. You're crushing it. Let's put your stuff on here. Like Karen Stubbs from Birds on a Wire. I mean, they're doing incredible things for young moms. or moms across the board, but they're also really focusing on marriage too. So she and her husband, Greg, created a series. We're like, great, let's put it on there. So we're continually every month adding new things to this, and it just kind of fills in those gaps. And quite frankly, there's some churches that are saying, hey, you know what? We can't do this other stuff. Like, we're not set up to do this. This membership was meant for any church to do. So there's that. We get really, really excited about that. I was talking to a church leader yesterday, and he works with premarital couples. And he said, the thing I've loved about the membership is, he goes, I'm busy. He's like a big software exec. He goes, I'm busy, and I know that when I go on there that you guys have scrubbed the internet and you have taken all the good stuff and you've put it on one place, and I trust you and I trust married people. So this has just made it so much better for them, and made it easier, gives them tools to do that. But we're super excited about this. Again, we rolled it out in January. I've let it be a little bit of a soft launch to see where people are landing. But it's been a lot of fun. So right now, my friends, what are some questions that you have, or maybe there's some things you want to share, ways that you guys have been proactive in your marriages, in your own marriage as a leader, but also how you've helped couples to be proactive in theirs. I know there's a little bit of delay right now, so there's going to be a little bit of pause as we're waiting people to catch up. So get a little drink of water. Break dance a little. I don't know. What questions do you have? You want to ask?
What does the membership cost?
Oh, where do you see where are those questions?
Are they not on yours?
And we'll be right back.
You're on so go over to the chat.
Okay. Chat.
Boom, right there.
Oh, look at that. All right. What does the membership cost? That's a great question. So it's either $8 a month, one time. Just check it out. Or it's $80 for the whole year. You can also become the affiliate. Again, you can also buy multiple memberships for folks. So that's on there too. All right. So, and we got, let's see, Josh, as someone who's single and the new family pastor, this sounds like an amazing resource to point married couples to. Is that I don't think that's a question. Yeah. You know what it is? It's funny, Josh. Some of our favorite leaders are singles that are single themselves, but they're actually poured into churches. Poured into marriages. There's a lady that's 30 minutes from here, and she says, hey, I create events that I don't even think I should be at, but she goes, I want the kids I love and serve to have mom and dad for a great marriage. So keep after it, Josh. John says, can a church have a membership that they can share?
Do you talk about the bulk memberships?
Yes, we do have bulk memberships where you can buy multiple memberships to give out to people, or you can do, so that's how that works. Or again, you can do the affiliate thing, but we've kind of made it where you can either do, hey, we'll put this link on our site. I love the idea of people coming to your church website, because the more they can say, oh, look what my church did for me, instead of just landing on our site, we really, really love that. Todd said, what's the best way to get a we're moving. Am I losing some of these, Robert?
Nope, they just kind of go down as people.
Okay, so I'm with Alex.
No, we'll look at Todd's first.
Okay.
What's the best way?
Wait, I think I'm,
Mm-hmm.
All right, come here just a minute, if you don't mind, Robert. All right. So you said look at Todd. So where should I start? Should I start here?
I would start down here because they're going to keep filling up from the top. So start with Todd and then work your way up.
Okay, what about all these folks I didn't answer yet?
Yeah, you just answered John's.
Okay, Todd, perfect. This is why I have Robert. This is why you better be glad he did the site, not me. Okay. Todd says, what's the best way to get a preventive marriage strategy going in your church if we don't have a staff position for marriage? I just had the most amazing conversation, Todd, with a guy named Carl Vader, who is kind of become like this really great voice for smaller churches. And he said, Ted, you just got to realize that senior pastors feel like, our smaller church pastors feel like that they got to start it, they got to run it, and they got to clean up after it. So everything we've done is where a church pastor can hand it off to a volunteer couple. They can oversee them, but they can give it to them. The pastor will say, well, what do I have to do? I'm like, well, you don't have to do anything. You just have to point me to who can. And then we train the leaders. Everything's labeled in a really friendly way. Everything's communicated in a really friendly way. The Facebook leaders page, everybody's teaching each other and talking. We've got a married people specialist that you talk to help you process to get that going. So I would say, Todd, Who are those 2, 3, 4 couples in your church that would say, hey, Todd, we got your back. Start with a surplus of leadership with them and say, you're going to be right there. And you be there for them and we'll be there for you, I promise. Okay. So Alex said, will the seminar be available offline as well? My wife, who co-directs our marriage ministry, couldn't attend. She's at MOPS. Good job at MOPS. We love MOPS. We're friends of that organization. So yes, this will be posted on our Married People Leaders page. So another great excuse to join. So it'll pop up there. Alex, that's great. Neil says, any advice for youth pastors to engage parents' marriages? You know, we get this question because, again, just like the children's pastor who's single and wants to pour into marriages because she loves the kids, youth pastors are the same way. So one of the things you could do is create a card, create a postcard that says that you pass out to parents, that you say, hey, all of those you whose parents are married, here's a card, take it home to them. Or if you've got a mailing list, you got an email list, it's just a great way to do it. And, you know, as youth pastors can do it too. Say, hey, here's a great tool for your parents. You know, here's a great tool for your mom and dad. So that's a great question. Hannah says, what are some great ways to draw couples into small groups when they feel too busy to commit once a week? That's a great question. What are some great ways to draw couples into small groups when they feel too busy to commit to once a week? Yeah, a lot of times what we found is you can do like a short-term group, like, I don't know, Hannah, if you guys do Sunday school or small groups, but what would say a lot of times people aren't quite ready to commit to a long-term small group. So sometimes you can use the topic of marriage to do a short-term group. And I always say, hey, it's just for the next 5 or 6 weeks, and then get a do a little bit of a poll to go, when would that be good? When could we do that? Is it Sunday right after church? Is it Sunday night? Is it Tuesdays? When are those nights that you could do that? But I think anything with small groups is your pastor and you guys just have to keep casting vision of why this is so important, why it's important. You know, we know why it's important. We know why it's so dangerous for people to be around people that believe that, you know, if marriage isn't working, you can just walk away. It's called social contagion. And it is proven that 75%, you get a 75% greater increase if somebody that's really close to you as a friend or family member divorce. So that's it's contagious because they keep saying, hey, here's why I did it. And there's so much freedom and I don't have to argue anymore. And it's so great. I believe the church can do the same thing with small groups, that it can start empowering marriages that way. But we have to just keep casting the vision and then making it as accessible as possible to them. That was Hannah. Let's see. Love that. It makes it short and sweet without asking them to commit over long. Oh, yeah, that is a cool one. We ran into a church leader today who was talking about that, and they did an event. This is another thing about is they did a one-night event and then launched it into groups. And if you notice those circles of large groups, small groups, individual couples, that's kind of always the deal. Like you're always answering the question of now what? You're always telling them whatever you're doing. Hey, don't panic if you don't get all the information. Don't panic. This isn't the thing. This is the start of something. And you always answer the questions of now what. Rachel says, by the way, thank you, Hannah. Rachel says, do you find that couples will attend workshops on a bi-monthly basis? You know, we've talked a lot about over the years is we want to create content and we'll talk about context, but I will say this, Rachel, nobody understands the context of what churches or what couples are willing to do in your church better than you do. And if you don't really know, you really can. I mean, you know, Facebook's got these little polls that you can create in 5 minutes to start asking questions. I mean, we live here in Atlanta and with Chick-fil-A, and they'll test market a milkshake for a year. So I just think we've got a lot to learn at churches from bigger organizations who are like, wait a minute, before we do something, let's find out when people can attend. You know, you may go, will they do it on my monthly basis? Maybe in your area, you could email me, you know why they do it so well on a bi-monthly basis? It's because our church is a commuter church and they don't have to drive as far. So we found that if we would do it at a clubhouse halfway, I mean, really, really, really trust yourself across the board, but really, really trust yourself when it comes to context of when people will attend. Okay. So Josh says, how would you advise older couples in our congregation to mentor younger married couples? Great question. So here's what I think a lot of older couples think. They think that they don't have it together enough to to pour into to married couples. They feel like, hey, who are we to say? We used to really, really struggle. What I encourage church leaders to say from up front all the time is this: struggle in a marriage is normal, but hope is available. See, sometimes we can just go, oh, marriage is so hard, and we just, or we'll go, if you'll just do these perfect little things, you'll be perfect like us. We've got to strike that middle. And so I think when you say, hey, we're looking from up front, we're looking for couples, not that they're perfect, but have known what it's like to struggle in their marriage, but have found some hope and want to give that away to a younger couple. In fact, if a couple ever tells you that they can't wait to share, I would move them into a different ministry, because that's not going to teach anybody anything, especially with millennials. What we're finding out millennials when it comes to mentoring is they call it co-mentorship. Yeah, you can invest into me, but I know some stuff too. I want to invest back into you. So I think it's just banging the expectation for the older couples that you're not looking for perfection, but you're looking for appropriate transparency, and you're looking for somebody that's going to pray for them and love them and invest in them. Again, it's casting vision. Jonathan says, does married people have good ideas for date nights that are organized and hosted at the church? Yes, that is one of the things that we create every year, a couple of different ways, where we create events that you can have an event at your church, or here's some date nights that you can send couples to do on their own. So married people, I would say the annual partnership is the best place to find that, where it gives you everything for the events, but the day nights and the small groups, and a thing called Married People Monthly. That's an emailed newsletter that we send to you, and you send it out to the couples of your church. You kind of get it all in one spot. That's what I always recommend, is just get it all in one spot. And even if you don't use most of it, I mean, the cost of it is less than what it's going to cost for you to have a graphic designer create a postcard. So we've really had to make it, not cost prohibitive for people. So check that out, because you will find a lot of great date nights on that. Okay. Todd, we're annual partners. It is great and has changed our church. Thanks, Todd. Thanks for saying that. I didn't even pay Todd $50 to say it. And Todd, thanks for saying something nice, because you very well could have said something not so nice. And then I would have had to address that. Yeah, we love our partners. We love our partners. I love, again, I'm going to say it one more time, Facebook leaders to go on there and see what happened. And just during January, February, it's still happening with events, crushing it. So we're glad it's helpful. And that's why we're doing it. I was at a big church for a long time, and I thought, we're helping a lot of couples here. And I thought, you know what? If we can help a lot of churches, we're going to have a whole lot more couples. So we've had such a great time doing that over the years, of just helping couples to knock it out of the park, because one of you guys mentioned, most churches don't have a staff person to do that. All right. Did I get everybody, Robert?
Mm-hmm.
I think we did. Do we need to wrap it up?
We've been 45 minutes, so we can give people a few more minutes to ask questions if they want to, and then we can start winding down. And
Todd, I'd like to know from you, when you say it's changed our church, in what ways would you say that it's changed your church? Again, there'll be a little delay. And Todd, as you're coming up to tell us that, type that in, that'd be great. Stephanie said, do you have any resources that are not web-based? Not really. We have small group materials that are not web-based, that you can get them on the web, but you can also get them. So we've got several small group studies. You can, all of those on DVD and with participants guide. Yes, so from a small group perspective, you can. We have some sticky notes that are kind of fun. We do have physical stuff, Robert. And just forgetting, Robert said, hey, don't forget the sticky notes. We got sticky notes that are kind of fun. Those things really, people love those. We're always running out of them. The warehouse is always like, we need to get more. But it's just little fun ways. You get the award for the best, whatever. It's just fun ways to affirm each other. Again, it's making marriage, giving less content more often. So check that out. Any other physical stuff, Robert, that I'm forgetting?
The books.
Oh, and the books. Yeah, we got lots of marriage books. I have a little book called Your Best Us. Marriage is easier than you think. So you can check that out. Alex says, is the Married People membership different from the purchase of the yearly curriculum? Yes. So what we did, we've kind of gone two directions. We've got Married People Churches, which is Married People for Churches resources. And then we have marriedpeople.org, which is direct to couples with tools around that churches can use. So any church, any couple can use marriedpeople.org, join that membership. But we know what happens when you put the body of Christ around a couple. It's just more. It just really is. But we felt like we had to be good stewards to make sure we were kind of unleashing all the stuff that we were creating. But yeah, that's two different worlds. The annual partnership gives you the tools to create the events or worship services, small groups. You get all the tools for that. 4 date nights, and then the once a month email. So that's a different tool. So great question. Todd says multi-generational engagement. Okay, so when I asked Todd, why did this help his church? And can everybody see these comments? Oh, great. You can read. Multi-generational engagement. Couples that were scheduled prior are now in community with each other. Several couples now don't believe they're broken anymore. That's enough for my day right there. Make sure they're not broken anymore. And that's what we get to do, right? We get to tell them what you think can't be fixed, God can fix, and we're for you, and we're going to get behind you. But again, like we started this whole thing with, man, we want to help couples from getting into crisis in the first place. So I think that's it. I think that any other questions from you guys? We're always good. We're always here. You can always hit the contact us button, and we're always going to be here. You're going to get to meet some people on the Facebook leader page, but work really hard on these resources. We've got some great voices in it. It makes it easy. So check it out. But again, I love the idea of, pastors saying, hey, I use married people resources because I have less couples coming in my office. I mean, that's our goal for a senior pastor, is to make his load lighter because couples around him are not falling apart. And we're getting to them before they even get close to that. And I always say this, we're not going to hear these kind of stories till heaven, but I'm willing to wait. The proactive stories, because they're not as emotional or measurable, but they are superior. So go tell the stories, people. You can do it. Let us know. We'd love to celebrate you. We'd love to know what you're doing. So thanks for hanging out with us. We'll post this afterwards, and you can send it to church leaders that you know of, or you can link them back and tell them to join the page. It's great. Alex. Alex says, sounds good. By the way, our couples love the resources. We're looking forward to year 2 in the fall. Also, we just partnered with 2 other couples on the family pastor who loves this ministry. Good deal, Alex. I appreciate you saying that's very, very fun. Amy says, will you be having a married people conference this year? A married people conference this year. We are going to be at Orange Conference talking there. We have been in talks of how we can create a marriage ministry conference with a couple of their folks. There's not a lot of stuff in cement yet, but we're playing around there, and that's the hope. And Kim, hey Kim, how are you, friend? She says, thank you. Love all the info and learning more about MP membership and the stat info and verses at the beginning. Well, good deal. Will they be able to get the slides too, Robert? Oh, sure. Of course, because they're on the presentation, right?
We'll offer them right here too.
Oh, they're going to offer them right there too. So you can even bust them out with your, with your people. Yeah, Kim, I'm a sucker for a stat. Some good info. I like to know what we're doing is based on something, right? Anyway, all right, you guys. Rachel says, am I able to put together a workshop for the couples in my church using the information from this presentation? Am I able to put together a workshop for the couples in my church using the information from this presentation? I would say this would be the answer. The quick answer is yes, Rachel. I would say but this feels like more like a leadership thing. Like if you've got your leadership couples pouring into marriage, I don't know if I would tell a guy that was brand new to your church, like, I don't know if this would be the presentation I would use. I would probably use some more of the resources that were designed for us to help you to reach that crowd. But yeah, you could use these from a leadership perspective.
We could also develop stuff that they could do like that, if that's something they want.
Yeah, let us know if this is something, if you want. And so you're going to be able to download, is it Keynote? Is this a Keynote presentation?
I just shared it as PDF.
Shared it as PDF. I love working with smart people. All right. Gotcha. Thanks. Okay. Dave says, I'll be sharing some of the data with our volunteer lead team. Throw more fuel on their fire. That's it. And I think when you tell them that you're not putting more burden on them, that you want to take it off of them, you just need them to cheerlead it. In terms of adding more burden to your plate, nope, don't want to do that. But I do need you to cheerlead it from up front, and everything's been created to be volunteer led. So you got to really reassure that pastor it's just not one more thing. So it's good. Cool. I know I just can't stop answering your questions because I think you guys are awesome, and that's why we're here. But we will sign off now, but always here to answer questions. Promise to get right back to you right away. And I'm going to pray for you real quick before I let you go. God, thank you for these leaders. Thank you for their heart that would pause the day to figure out how it is they could help, from a youth pastor, children's pastor, everybody there. God, I just pray that you'd give them wisdom, and you would give them insight, and you would give them tools, and you would give them the motivation to do this. And God, and we know there's a battle for marriage. We know that's true. God, help us to fight the good fight, to know that we're not alone. Help us to team together. Help us to enjoy and celebrate each other. And we love you, and we thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, friends, we're here for you. Be talking to you soon.